So we've learned how to combine strings, but what if we want to do more calculations with numbers in our code? Well, there are four basic arithmetic operators in Swift: plus, minus, times, and divide, right? And we'll go through each one of these to show you how they work in Swift, okay? So let's start out with addition here. And addition is going to look a lot like what string concatenation looked like, right? So we could say let sum equal, do 8 plus 9 plus 10. Okay, and we could print out our sum, and you'll see that it will run the math and show 27. Okay. Let's do subtraction here. Okay, subtraction. And let's say let score equal our sum minus 7. Okay, we'll print out our score, and we can see that our score is 20, right? So yeah, this is pretty common and pretty basic math, right? Addition and subtraction, and we can use our property names or the values assigned to those properties to run calculations. Okay, so to do another example, let's calculate our age based on the current year minus our birth year. Okay, so let's say let birth year equal 1991, let current year equal 2019, and we'll say let age equal the current year minus our birth year. Okay, let's print out my age here. And we see, oh, I've already got an age up above, and that's bad, right? So we'll say age 2 here, and print out age 2. Okay, so we should see 28, right? So we can store these years into properties, right? The birth year and the current year, and then we can actually perform arithmetic on them because they are both of the same type, right? And that's an important thing to note, is that when we're doing this arithmetic, the two things that we are either adding or subtracting or dividing need to be the same type. In this case, our type inference gave these both the type of int, right? And I can option click and I can see that they're both integers. Okay, and so because they are both integers, I can write this calculation on them. Now, if I had like 2019.0, well, the compiler is going to get mad and say, hey, you can't use these binary operators on doubles and ints, right? So they have to be the same type. So in this case, 2019 and 1991. So we can also use these operators to modify the value of a variable. Okay, so let's say I have salary here. Let's say our salary is 65,000. And I'll just point out, a lot of times if you're writing big numbers, you can use this underscore to kind of separate, as if you were like using a comma, writing down 65,000. Instead of using a comma, you'll use like an underscore to represent the place value, right? So if I wanted to say my salary was like 65 million, I would write it like that, right? But you don't have to do that. You can just do 65,000. But I like to do that if it's a bigger number, and it makes it easier to read. Okay, so we've got our salary, which is 65,000. So let's say that we got a raise. So I'm going to call my salary, and we're going to say salary is now equal to the value of my current salary plus 10,000. Okay, and if we print out our salary here and run the code, we'll see that our salary is now 75,000. Okay, well, it turns out modifying a variable with these operators is so common that there's actually a shorthand way of doing this, and it's something that's called compound assignment. So what we do instead here is, let's say I want to modify my salary again. So I can say salary, and instead of saying salary equals salary, I can actually do salary equals, and then whatever kind of operator, we're going to do salary plus equals. Let's say I want to add 10,000 more to my salary. And so what this is saying is, it's saying take the value of salary, add 10,000 to it, and then assign that new value back to salary. Okay, so this is compound assignment. And so I can use plus here, I can do minus, I can do times, I could do divide, equals. Those are all doing the same thing, and they would be the equivalent of this, right? So salary is equal to salary plus minus times or divided by 10,000, right? So if I wanted to like double my salary using compound assignment, I could do salary times equals 2. And it's a pretty awesome raise, right? We'll see that now my salary is 150,000, okay? Or we could split it into 3, right? We could say salary divide equals 3 and print out my salary. And we'll see that now my salary is down to 50,000, okay? So you get the idea. That's how compound assignment works. Whenever we want to change the value of these variables, we can use this compound assignment as a short way of doing that, okay? A shorthand way of doing that. All right, so let's do an example of division here, because division, we got to keep a few things in mind. So let's say I've got a property x. Let's say x is equal to 5. We've got y is equal to 2, and our result is going to be x divided by y. Now, before I run this code, we know that 5 divided by 2 would be 2.5, right? So let's go ahead and let's print out our result and see that it works. And we're only seeing 2 here, even though we're expecting 2.5. Okay, and the reason for this is that because of type inference, x is an integer, y is an integer, and so the result of dividing two integers has to be an integer, right? So result here is an integer. Now we know that an integer can't store decimal point values, right? It only stores whole numbers. So what happened here is that even though 5 divided by 2 is 2.5, result wasn't able to hold on to that 0.5, so it rounded down to the nearest whole number. Okay, so if I wanted to be able to properly get the answer of 5 divided by 2, I would need x and y to either be float type or double type. Okay, so we'll use our type annotation to tell the compiler, hey, this should be a double or this should be a float. So we're going to do let x colon double equal 5 and let y colon double equal 2. And we'll run the code. And we see that we properly get 2.5 here, right? Because we divided a double and a double, result is also going to be a double. So I'm going to talk about one more operator that will most likely be new to you, but happens to be super useful in Swift. And it's something that's called the modulo operator, okay? And let me type that for you so that modulo, M-O-D-U-L-O, okay? Modulo operator. And the symbol for a modulo operator is the percent sign. Okay, so when we divided two integers, we got the result back, but without the remainder, right? So when we did 5 divided by 2, we only saw 2. But what about the remainder? What if we want the remainder? What if we want to do something with the remainder? Well, the modulo operator allows us to capture the remainder instead of the result. Okay, so in our example above, let me comment this out and let's start from scratch here, right? So let's say I've got let x equal 5, let y equal 2, okay, and these are both ints, right? And then let's say let remainder equal, let's do x modulo y, okay? And then let's print out the remainder. Okay, so we see that the remainder was 1, okay? And we know that's right because 5 divided by 2, well, 2 goes into 5 twice with a remainder of 1. Okay, so the modulo is capturing that remainder. So why would we care about that? Why would we care about remainders? Well, it turns out that getting a remainder value will allow us to properly assess if one value is evenly divisible by another value, right? So we know that 5 is not evenly divisible by 2 because the remainder was 1, right? So there was stuff left over, so it's not evenly divisible. And so we'll talk more about why this is super useful in our next lesson. Because, for example, if I have 6 here and we run the code, we see that our remainder is 0. And so we can properly say that 6 is evenly divisible by 2. Okay? And so again, in our next lesson, we'll be using the modulo operator a lot more to check conditions and run code accordingly with that remainder value. Okay? So now a challenge for you before you move on is I want you to create properties for the ages of everyone in your family, okay? And I want you to calculate the average age of your family using what we've learned today. Be sure to print out your average when you're done. So go ahead and pause the video and then we'll go through it together. Okay, so we want to calculate the average age of our family, average age of family, okay? So let's say let Johnny age equal 27, let Nelly age equal 25, and then I have a son, say let Ollie age equal 2. Okay, well, let's first we know that in order to calculate the average, we need the total values divided by the count, right? So let's go ahead and say let total age equal Johnny age plus Nelly age plus Ollie age. Okay, and then our average age is going to be our total age divided by 3, because there are 3 people in my family. We'll go ahead and we'll print out my average age and run the code. And we see that the average age of my family is 18. Okay. So that's what you should have gotten. If you didn't understand, go back and try to make sense of what we did here. And then we'll talk a little bit about how to comment out code. You've probably noticed that I've been making comments throughout, but we'll go through it together.